Hey everybody, I'm Danny Van Ness, and I no longer have PlayStation Pride. Let me start from the beginning. Back in the late 90s, I was introduced to the world of video games through my family's very first home console, the PlayStation. Soon after I got a Game Boy Color, but the PlayStation was where the big boy games were at. Boy, that was cringy. Starting out without much knowledge of video games, our first few games were stuff like the Rugrats Search for Reptar, the Space Jam game, and a demo disc. But around that time, we would also rent and eventually buy franchises like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. When we eventually got a PS2, we were introduced to a lot more PlayStation franchises. Heck, 3 of our first games were Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, and Sly Cooper. And then eventually many others would soon follow. But I didn't quite have PlayStation Pride just yet, because around that time I was starting to get more and more into Sonic, and more Sonic games were on Nintendo systems than others. In fact, my very first 3D Sonic game was Sonic Heroes because we only had a PS2 at the time, and that was the first time a 3D Sonic game went multi-platform. I mean, it wasn't my first Sonic game, but I'm getting sidetracked. I mean, we're talking about PlayStation, not Sonic. Anyway, a few years later I get a PSP, and then a couple years after that we get a PS3. This was around that time that I really started feeling PlayStation Pride. Now, what exactly do I mean by PlayStation Pride? Basically, I was a PlayStation fanboy. Essentially what a Nintendo fanboy is to Nintendo, I was to PlayStation. This attitude really started kicking off in 2011 for a mixture of reasons. One thing that doesn't really have to do with video games is that I started feeling much better than I did in 2010, but again, that didn't have to do with video games. Another reason is that I started having trouble with my 360 with the internet connection that I wouldn't have with my PS3. I mean, the PS3's internet was really slow, but it at least worked at the time. But by that summer, I had a lot of PS3 games, or I was starting to get a lot more PS3 games. So for the next few years, I was just this type of person that would think that PlayStation could do almost no wrong, and that the competition couldn't really keep up in my eyes, and whenever someone would criticize the PlayStation version of something and they wouldn't with the others, I'd say, oh, you're just a PlayStation hater, or you're a fanboy, one of those, that's the only reason why you're saying that, you're actually wrong, and, well, Basically, I was acting like a Nintendo fanboy with most Nintendo games at the time before, well, the Wii U's fate. Just with PlayStation. However, by 2016, my pride started slowly draining. It was still kind of there, because I still got a lot more PlayStation games, but, by the PS4 generation, things kind of changed a little bit. Again, it was kind of for a mixture of reasons. One of the major reasons for this was seeing that the PS4 was not backwards compatible with any of the previous generations, only getting some digital PS2 games that were not the best. Not the best ports, I mean. Also around this time, more of my friends had the Xbox One and not the PS4, so I had more people to play online with on the Xbox than PlayStation. I am by no means a big online player, but whenever I do play online, I like playing with friends, and since they had Xbox, And around this time, Sony started making some questionable decisions for PlayStation, and the Vita, they just let die out because they made everything too expensive and no one wanted to make games for it. Of course, if you were a JRPG fan, that would have been paradise for you, but But anyway, by 2018 or 19, my pride had pretty much either gone out or was just barely there. At that point, a lot of games I played on PS4 were either multi-platform or they were just remakes or remasters of older PlayStation games. So once I stopped being blinded by pride and nostalgia for PlayStation, I started to realize something. With all those franchises I love that are either exclusive or started out exclusive on PlayStation, it wasn't about playing them on PlayStation, it was just about those games in general. Like, there are more franchises I love that are more on PlayStation than Nintendo or, well, obviously Xbox, because they have a lot of franchises that even to this day they don't like to use that much. But once I stopped having that pride, I didn't care that I was playing a lot of those previously PS1 exclusive games on Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. So if Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, and Sly Cooper ever went multi-platform, I wouldn't care as long as the games were good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still want there to be competition in the world of gaming for obvious reasons, but you know what I mean. So basically, the reason I don't have PlayStation Pride anymore is because of, like I've said throughout this video, a mixture of reasons. Two of the biggest reasons are because of some of Sony's decisions, and because, well, I grew up and things change over time. Now don't get me wrong on all this, I still love a lot of things PlayStation, and I can really appreciate what they've done. It's just, over time I've come to appreciate other things in gaming outside of PlayStation. And I love my PS5, and I look forward to trying out more games for it, and obviously I just aged the video, but who cares. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think of PlayStation, or anything gaming, or what you thought of this video, or all of the above, I guess. Be sure to leave a like if you liked this video, subscribe for more of my videos in the future, and thanks for watching.